Good morning, good evening, good night. Could be any time of the bloody day, to be honest, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're well. We've got a really, really special guest today. Oh no, that's the other one. We've actually got Kate Walker with us. I'm joking. We've got an old friend. So I'm going to, before you introduce, I'm going to tell a bit of a backstory because this is quite nostalgic for me. See, and I've learnt longer words than when we first met. I met Kate when I was selling health and safety after first left the army because I wasn't clever enough to do much else. She used to work in an office in Birmingham. And Kate was, I was call her a physio, but she's not. She's downgraded stuff to a sports masseuse, we're going to say. So I had a bad shoulder. But no, we met in Regency in Brindley Place in Birmingham somewhat 16 years ago. And now I'm really pleased that not only we're very good friends, I've got to work on her passion point right now. It's the last since 16 years ago since I met her. She's created something called the DSO, which I'll let talk about. And we've now collabed. That's pretty cool. So without further ado, mate, say hello. Let everyone know who you are, what you do, and then if you want to adjust any of that intro, feel free.
Hi, I'm Kate, and thanks, Dave. No, I don't think we need to intro change. We'll go with it.
Good.
As you say, we've known each other for years, and actually, you're still Dave Shoulder Regis in my phone.
Yeah, see,
that's the key. That's what's important, and I'm not changing it.
Never. So, good.
Yeah, so for me, it's changed a lot since then, and we've gone a lot more down the route of looking at diabetes in the workplace.
Yep.
It's been an interesting journey, really recognising that diabetes isn't really understood. It's heard about, no one really thinks of it as anything serious. Oh, my mate's got it, it's fine, I take the tablets. It's not really understood. And then I kind of started to go onto construction sites, discussing with gentlemen on the sites about all things important around man's health, because diabetes.
We've got to stop. So construction sites is a fairly good choice, but I understand some of the good talking points. So I'm an ex-ground worker, so I understand it. But what's the biggest talking point that you can catch people's attention? Because a lot of my friends are all construction workers that won't know about this. So why is diabetes awareness important to men on construction sites?
Well, it's important because I think men don't present to GPs.
Yep.
I think we need to open up and encourage that conversation.
Yep.
But how do we do that? And I think that's the key here. 75% of men who have diabetes have erectile dysfunction.
I never knew that, by the way.
So effectively, I walk on sites and tell lads their willies aren't going to work.
100% go and get checked, boys. This is bad. Like, I know loads. I didn't know until I met you that was a thing.
Yeah. And so they're the serious, because how do we get motivated? It's one of the things you talk about.
That's a big motivator.
You know, that's what I found. Yeah. I've had some great conversations, some really interesting talks about where cheap Viagra is in the country. Some 19-year-old lad told me he took it. I asked if it was on his own or with a bloke. Oh, with a woman. And apparently it takes 45 minutes to work, at which point some gentleman in the corner decided that was too long with his wife, who wasn't necessarily the finest, and decided to go and get his checkup. So I think, how do we encourage this conversation? How do we really engage? And then kind of with senior management, we talk legal. So very different conversations.
Right.
But it starts to make you realise, and one of the challenges I had is that if people don't go to GPs, and we know men are particularly poor at presenting, how do we go to them? How do we help encourage that conversation?
And it's hard to get off site.
Yes.
In fact, I can't say that story on camera, but I've got a story. Yeah, once when I was on the machine at Worcester Rugby Club and I had to lie, I told a rather extravagant lie just to go to the doctors.
And I think there's a few things, isn't there? Time off, there's deadlines in this industry. The same with logistics that we work in. How do we get agreement on the appointments? How do we take time off?
No one believes
we're also travelling. Some people are on sites.
Yeah, we're miles away.
Move on a Monday, come back on a Friday.
Yeah.
Also, do men really want to share that? There's still a stigma, especially in these industries. As much as we're saying it's improving, I'm sure it is, but it's very tricky. How does that conversation happen? How do we get around the stigma? Diabetes has a horrible stigma about, it's because I ate too much, it's because I'm fat. And I think that's got to go. There's so many factors that influence why we could have diabetes, shift patterns, stress. And I think that conversation needs to happen so we can get more people coming forward. We need the sites to be safer. If we put our guys who maybe aren't so well on a crane in the heat with diabetes, I mean, what's those risk factors?
I mean, and then we get onto the lorries and stuff, which we'll come on to. But I guess first, one thing you're exceptional and I really like, stats. Let's throw some stats out there so we can put all the things on there. So because this is probably the grinding point for anyone that's probably, because we could chop this into reels as well. So just run through the numbers. That's the biggest thing you caught my attention with when we started discussing this. Do you know how long it was? Nearly 2 years ago as well.
That's
it's taken you a year and a half.
Well, it's taken some work, thanks to legals. But I do think it's a condition that's not fully understood. So we've got, as you said already, 700 people a day are diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow.
We've just hit 5 million people with diabetes in the UK.
And the population's what, 63 million or something? 70 at tops?
So it's 1 in 12 in the working population have diabetes, but 400,000 are type 1s. And I think it's important for people living with type 1 diabetes, there's a real frustration when they're branded into type 2.
Yeah, totally different.
A totally different medical condition. I think it really is.
I've been educated by Donna Sutton on that.
Yeah,
so.
nice. Perfect. And I think, again, it is. It's and I think even in a workplace, that conversation needs to happen. So we've got 400,000-ish with type 1, but actually we've got 1 million people on insulin. So there's 600,000 type 2s. And that's really important because often not understood, less education around the implications of insulin. There's 1 million undiagnosed. And I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I think a lot of them are you. Again, the construction, logistics, burying our heads.
Where does that come from? That's a big number. How do we know there's 1 million on?
The NHS is saying it's just over 850,000 is the exact numbers Diabetes UK just published.
Right.
Where they get it from, I guess, is a guesstimate of the sort of numbers we'd anticipate to see post-COVID.
Although I suppose you could do that off a diagnosis rate at the moment. If it's 700 a day,
it's that difficulty of who's not coming forward. We talked, Donna was saying how the symptoms can be quite mild. People ignore them. I'm a bit tired while I worked hard. I'm thirsty while it's hot. They're symptoms that can be brushed aside.
If you're thirsty, Lyfelinez is really good for that. Just
nice.
on a hydration product.
Hydro.
Just probably try that first before you go. You might. No, I'm joking.
Doctors first.
Yeah, doctors first, then hydro.
And I think it's that. Those numbers are staggering, but what I think is the biggest concern is there's 13.9 million people with pre-diabetes. So it's 1 in 3 in the UK. So it's the 9th leading cause of death too.
And look, I'm going to refer to last night's conference because it's just a sobering. It's the second time I've sat in something like that, and as much as I make light of it, it's quite worrying. If there's a room we sat in last night about 10 years, most of them unfortunately won't be here because it was that old, such an old community. But that generation, I believe, and these are only my opinions, at least got some sort of excuse because I don't think the technology wasn't around, the internet wasn't around, our awareness of food wasn't around. So, they're kind of probably dealing with the result of the lack of awareness and education, where it just isn't the same right now. If we've got 13.9 million people, I mean, I just fast forward in my head 30 years. That room will be in the middle of the football pitch, not in a room in the stadium. It'll need the bloody stadium. I
think it's an interesting one in terms of those that were there last night. As you say, we're an older generation. Diabetes was always perceived as and it was men, and it's not a knock. It was always the older man's condition.
Right.
So, and I think over time the body could wear. It could be stress. It's a hormone. Diabetes is a hormonal condition.
Right.
So many factors could have influenced, and we saw it as an aging thing. I think what scares me today is we're seeing younger and younger people getting it. We've got under 12 with type 2 in Warsaw now.
Whoa.
It's presenting quite aggressively. It's starting. So I think when I look at the room last night, it's, I suppose, what we would have anticipated seeing many years ago. Ideally, and I hope for all of them, that it's kind of new diagnosis. It's quite caught early. They'll be active. They were there, so they're already motivated. They'll be making changes.
Fine.
What worries me is the younger population and how young we're starting to see.
Yeah.
We're seeing it in their 30s. We're seeing more. So I think it's a change in the condition and the age that worries me, because where are we going to be in 20 years is where those 30-year-olds are now who are getting diagnosed. At 50, they're going to be leaving the workforce early. We know they're already getting early exit from the workforce.
Yeah.
There's increased risks, the complications. 1 in 6 hospital beds now have someone with diabetes in. So how's that going to look in the years to come? And I think, the NHS are doing an incredible job. It's a massive firefight, the work Donna does and the complications. Yeah. How do we get ahead of that? And I think for me, the workplace and where I'm passionate is how do we get ahead and make small changes.
Agreed.
That will really impact kind of this staggering statistic.
Now, that was not rehearsed, but that is a beautiful intro to just picking up that box. So 1 in 6 is astonishing, and this comes on to now, so we can talk about so what, because I'm a big fan of the so what. When patience sometimes means I'll have to do and cause action. So this is the action of like what we are looking to do, and something I'm really, really honoured to be part of. It's the Hypo Kit.
Hypo Kit.
Hypo Kit.
I think it's exciting times. Really, genuinely, how do we make this difference? How do we make diabetes understood? How do we bring it? I don't want it to be scary, but we talk about heart disease, we talk about cancer, we talk about mental health. But actually, it's a serious condition. And we talk about a lot in our organisation, we talk about it being a gateway to other medical conditions.
Right.
So it's the leading cause of blindness in the working population. We know that 500 people a day, 500 a week have heart attacks post diabetes. The complexity of
amputations,
190 a week, UK stats. So I think when we look at it as a gateway, we can start to say, like, catch it early. We can slow this down. I think for us, the kit's for two reasons. One, it could save a life. You were talking to Donna about the fact that if someone was having a hypo, how do we get the sugar, a glucose shot into them that does it? A Lyfelinez shot is what it is, but it's a sugar shot.
Oh, it's too short.
Too short.
Did that last week and all the way.
So, how do we get the sugar in? And I think it's frightening. It's great that sugar's been taken out of products, but Lucozade now doesn't have enough sugar.
Yeah, the irony
having a hypo.
The irony. In fact, we've demonised it, and it's now like not readily available for when it's needed.
So if we were out in construction or logistics, where are we going to get the sugar from to get someone in the event of a major hypo?
Yeah.
As Donna was saying, it can save a life. It can save, other damaging factors that can happen. So this kit for me is vital from that perspective. It's got the training on. But I think the second part is also the awareness. If this sits next to every defib, first aid kit, it gets a conversation.
Yep.
It starts to say, this is serious.
Yeah.
And if we can take it seriously, I think we can do significantly more.
So I spoke to a very close friend of mine who works in the Asda Procurement Centre, senior manager level, and she's talked about like 6 of her friends in the office are diabetic. And you're like, I actually wouldn't know what to do with them. And you're like, Jesus, this is real. Like, obviously, I'm used to it as a construction setting for the conversations we have. Been a PT for a long time, so come across a few. And in the health and fitness setting, which I believe has an element of being part of the problem. I've got some strong views, but there's also that I'll use a bit with humour to try and lighten what is quite a serious topic. But to talk to someone that's just in a normal workplace, and she just says, "Oh, yeah, six friends." Actually, wouldn't know what to do. So I think that's the other thing. It's a source of information as well.
Yeah, and I think we were talking yesterday at that event when we presented. It's how do we empower people to know more?
Yeah,
and I think my fear always, people associate diabetes with insulin.
Yeah.
And what would be the worst case scenario? Someone's having a hypo and they give them insulin, it would kill them. Yeah. And so how do we educate? How do we bring this knowledge up? How do we help those people in the event? And even just to have the ability for those with diabetes in the workplace to feel safe to talk. And I think that's a big part. When I'm on site and we've got, on the ground with 30 lads in a shed, there's many who say, I don't want to say because I'm going to be judged. My manager won't understand. So I think this starts that conversation that they're not trying to be removed from the company. The company do care.
Yep.
We talk about companies being diabetes safe employers. And actually we think that will cause them to retain staff, have healthier staff, and actually recruit better at a time when we've got recruitment issues in the industry.
Especially when you look at the numbers. I mean, it's huge.
So the latest data we've just started to produce and we think will come through is that actually if you're driving for a living, so 1 in 12 have diabetes in the workforce.
I mean, this number gets big.
Yeah, so actually when we look at it and take it for drivers, people who drive for a living, to get the right terminology, it's actually 1 in 6 with diabetes. And I've got my daughter in the car. Yeah. That does not entertain me.
But driving for a living does not just stop at 44-ton lorry. Driving for a living is 7.5 tonners, 3.5 ton vans, those sorts of things. So I think we've connected locally with Steve Dawson from Dawson's Training, HGV, or everyone around the Shrewsbury will know. You've also got some interesting conversations with the DVLA and the Road Haulage Road Haulage Association.
Yeah, Road Haulage Association.
Yeah.
So
do you want to talk some more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we've produced, we think, the first of its kind document on kind of the type 2 epidemic in the workplace and the implication. We've not really got any data out there. So the clinical data has now been pulled together and we're working, as you say, to look to a round table for transport specifically and construction, but with the Road Haulage Association. National Highways are in early conversation. So how do we start to really raise this awareness and make this something that becomes a requirement that education or understanding around diabetes is done in the workplace?
Yeah, and it's some other stuff. I mean, it's to see. I mean, I'm a HG1 driver. I can't believe that Did you say there's some policies that suggest that if you're a type 1, you should be recording glucose levels by law? Is law the right word? Every 2 hours? Am I?
So DVLA require anyone on insulin to test before driving and every 2 hours whilst driving to ensure blood sugars have stayed.
Pretty sure that can't be happening.
Well, I think the difficulty sits is for type 1s, I think they're generally very well educated. They're under consultants, have had it often for quite some years, not always.
Yeah.
There's a lot of education around it. It's, for me, type 2s on insulin, they could have had an appointment with their GP for 10 minutes, been told you need to take insulin, and that's pretty much the level of education. Fine. So the chances of them knowing about DVLA regs or knowing enough, that's my biggest worry of how do we help that education piece? And, why should someone know if you don't
tell them? Yeah, of course. And what's the reception? What's the conversation with with those guys around this? Are they fully supportive, or those associations?
Yeah, massively. There's a real drive to understand more. I think what's been really interesting for me, it's under Health and Safety at Work Act, it's a known and foreseeable risk. So there's legal requirements around this, but it's back to the same point. People don't know if they don't know. They don't understand enough. So it's been really interesting working in this space to drive a new conversation, to get people to understand it. And now that it has been heard, I think we're getting some real traction and massive backing and support around this work to say, actually, a little bit of education empowers people, could really change lives.
Agreed. So for me, being, as I say, I'm a HGV driver, wouldn't be much for us to do if we've always talked about a smaller kit that could sit in a lobby. I think, 350,000 HGV drivers are in the country? That's what
you said, yeah, you did that up. I think they're the sort of numbers.
Please, no one comment in the comments and say it's wrong. So I think, there's so much going on with this. But do you want to walk to some of the people at home just exactly how this is used? So just, what it's going to take, what the QR code goes to. I think we talked about get a certificate for an employer. So if a small employer wants to do this, $29.99, you QR code it. What's the training course? Do you want to talk a little bit about the training course that it'll land on?
Yeah, so once you scan the code, it'll go through to page, so you can either restock if we need to, because we've got to keep it up to date, or take the training course, which myself and Donna, our resident nurse, will be doing the work on. But the course is really about what to do in the event of a hypo, what we're looking at, what are the signs, the symptoms, how to help somebody had they had that. It's a free course once you bought the kit, and as many people can do it as they want. So we really want to educate as many people. It might not be in the workforce, it might be someone you love at home one day. How we raise this is that the more people that can scan in advance, they know what they're doing, and they can educate themselves around diabetes and the risks.
This falls into just like the basic use of a first aid kit, right? Because you have to do first aid at work. Like, was it one for every 6 employees, and you have to have a first aider or something? So, I'm excited. 2 flavours.
Yep.
I've actually realised the flavour's quite important today. I thought this was but Donna's had a little sip. She's the expert, so we got some good feedback. Mango could be a little bit punchy. You might have to take the edge off that. But yeah, mango shot, mixed berries. Heard it first, better than Lift. Got to drop that in. Look, no, really nice to catch up with you. And I'm sure at some point we'll probably get you back on. I think, interestingly, it'd be nice to see what happens with some of the transport and construction conversations you've got going on. I know we've got an awful lot of Lyfelinez consumers that work on site, machine drivers, ground workers, got loads of lads that are on heavy goods vehicles and stuff. So just from a selfish perspective, knowing what people might find value in, we've got a big audience here. But thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us. It's a pleasure to see you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.